Welcome to Mrs. Neller's notes for her double block algebra class. These are the notes for section 4.1 entitled The Coordinate Plane. And today we're going to plot and label ordered pairs on the coordinate plane, and we're going to identify the quadrant or axis on which the point is located. And the coordinate plane is basically the graph grid that we graph on. And it's formed by two real number lines that intersect at a right angle. So you have one number line that goes left and right, and one number line that goes up and down. And the coordinate plane is actually named after René Descartes. And he is an old mathematician and philosopher. He was French, and he came up with this graphing system, and he actually decided to call it the Cartesian coordinate plane. He named it after himself, René Descartes and Cartesian. So that's just an interesting little trivia fact there for you. When you have your coordinate plane that you're graphing on, it actually has a starting point or an origin that's at the ordered pair 0, 0. The x-axis is horizontal, the y-axis is vertical, and it's broken up into 4 quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we use Roman numerals for them. And then when we plot in the coordinate plane, we write our ordered pairs as x and then y. And the x value is how much you move left and right, and the y value is how much you move up and down. So let me put some of this information on our coordinate plane here. Right here is one axis, or one number line. That's your vertical number line. That's actually your y-axis. And then you have your other one right here. We're kind of darkened in on the graph, but I'll just trace over them. So this is your x-axis. And where they meet, that is your origin. That is the point 0, 0. And the 4 quadrants go counterclockwise. So the first quadrant is all of the positive values. We'll talk about those in a minute. The second quadrant goes counterclockwise then to the left. The third quadrant goes down to the left. And then the fourth quadrant goes over to the right. So when you're on your x-axis, if you start at your origin and you move to the right, you're actually dealing with positive numbers. You get more positive as you go further to the right. Or if you're on your x-axis and you're going to the left, those are your negative values. If you're on your y-axis and you're going up the y-axis from the origin, those are the positive values there. Or if you're at the origin and you go down the y-axis, then these are the negative values down here. So like I said, that first quadrant has all of the positive values for its ordered pairs. In the second quadrant, you're going to have negative and then positive. So you'll go to the left first and then up to get into the second quadrant. The third quadrant is all of the negative values because you move back and down. And the fourth quadrant has all of the positive values because you move to the right, which is positive, and then down, which is negative. So again, when you're plotting those ordered pairs, that x value tells you to move left or right. And the y value tells you to move up or down. I'll abbreviate that with some arrows. Move up or down, since I'm running out of room there. So hopefully these are the basics of graphing on the coordinate plane that you're already familiar with. We just want to review them and make sure that everybody has this same basic information. So now we're going to practice plotting a few points. And this should be fairly easy, but it's just a review to make sure you know how to move around on the coordinate plane. So we're going to plot each ordered pair and then name what quadrant it's in. So this ordered pair is labeled A, 3, 4. So I start at my origin, I start at 0, 0. My first value tells me to move 3 to the right. My second value tells me to move 4 up. So there's my ordered pair A. And that is going to be in the first quadrant. B, again, I start at 0, 0, and I go -3, so that's to the left, and then -6, that's going to be down right there. And there's my ordered pair B. And he is going to be in the third quadrant. My ordered pair C is -5, 2, so I'm going to move back 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then up 2. So C is going to be in the second quadrant. The ordered pair D, okay, I start at 0, 0, and I'm going to go 2 to the right and then 1 down. So D is actually in the fourth quadrant. And again, notice I'm using Roman numerals there. We have 2 left. The ordered pair E is 0, 7. So that means when I'm at the origin 0, 0, I don't move anywhere to the left or to the right. But I am going to move up 7. So E actually isn't in a quadrant. E is actually on the y-axis. And F, if I start at 0, 0, I move back 4, but then I don't move up or down at all. So F is actually on the x-axis. So when you have ordered pairs that land on either the x-axis or the y-axis, they are not in a quadrant, and you can't say that they're on quadrant 1 and 2 or quadrant 2 and 3. You have to be all the way inside a quadrant or all the way on a line. So you're either in the quadrant or you're not. Oops. That's example 2 down here. There's example 2. Okay. So now we're going to reverse the process. Just have some funny little marks here on our coordinate plane. And we want to now write the ordered pair for each of these little marks. So this first little mark looks kind of like some kind of hypercolor circle. So he's right here. So I'm just going to count. I'd go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then down 2. So his ordered pair would be 6, -2. And that is the fourth quadrant. With the star, again, I start at 0, 0. I'd go back 2 and down 1, 2, 3. So back 2 and down 3. So they're both going to be negative. That means he's in the third quadrant if he's a negative, negative. Okay, the smiley face is 3 over to the right and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, 6. And he's positive, positive. So he's in the first quadrant. The little daisy goes back 1, 2, 3, 4, and up 2. So back 4 and up 2. Puts the daisy in the second quadrant. The little blue and red circle doesn't go left or right at all. Just goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's going to be 0, -7. And that's not going to be in any quadrant. It's going to be on the y-axis. And then this little bullseye looking mark goes back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces, but doesn't move up or down at all. So it's going to be -8, 0, and that ordered pair is on the x-axis. Okay, so you will have homework problems like that where you have to graph and read things off of a graph. And our last example here is to basically apply this graphing by making a scatter plot. So it says that the amount in millions of dollars spent on cassettes of recorded music is shown in the table. Make a scatter plot of the data to describe the relationship. Now notice all of these values in the table, all of the years and all of the cassette amounts, they're all positive. So when I make my graph, when I make my scatter plot, I'm going to stay in the first quadrant. And that's usually where we are when we're making bar graphs or line graphs and scatter plots as well. Scatter plots just mean that the points are going to be scattered all over the place. They might not necessarily be in a line. Okay, now this year is my first column, so that's technically my X values. And the cassettes is the second column in the table, so that's going to be my Y values. So my x-axis is going to be across the bottom of my graph, going left and right. So I'm going to put the years across the bottom. So I'll have 88, 90, 92, 94, and 96. And then I want to label that year. And then I'll have the cassettes on the y-axis, so that's going to be going up and down. And I have to go to about 450, so maybe I'll just count by hundreds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 500, 400, 300, 200, and 100. So that would be my cassettes. And we want to make sure that we say that it's in millions. That way people know that it's 500 million, not just 500. And now I'm basically going to plot each of these points. So I'm going to go over to 1988, and I'm going to go up to about 450 and plot my point. So this is very similar to what we did when we were making a line graph. In 1990, I had 442, so just a little bit less than before. In 1992, I had 360, so right about there. In 1994, I had 345, so a little bit less. And in 1996, I had 225, so just a little over the 200 mark. Now it's a scatter plot, so that means we don't have to connect our points. We can just leave them scattered across our graph. Now I do need one other thing. I do need a title. Okay? So we could say that this is money spent on cassettes. Or money spent on cassette tapes. Now, usually in your book, when you are doing this type of a problem, they're going to ask you to make some type of conclusion. So if you were looking at this graph, what conclusion would you make? Well, hopefully you've noticed that as the time increases, the amount of cassettes being sold decreases. So we would write that in a sentence. As the years increase, the number, I'm going to abbreviate a little bit, the number of cassettes sold decreases. So that's the type of extension that they will have you do in your homework as well. They will have you graph the ordered pairs, and then they will ask you questions about them, or have you make a certain conclusion about them. So there is your homework, your practice problems, and if you have any questions on them, come on in and see me before school.